Okay, let's look at this Viceroy Research Company. It's a real thing. There is a company called Viceroy Research. There are three people behind it, but it is a questionable company. Viceroy Research and its members slapped with defamation and fraud lawsuits in the US. This is not their first time. They were also hit in South Africa as well. If we hop over to here, UK Security Minister told about short selling Viceroy Research's Russia links. This here is a decision from South Africa, the Financial Services Tribunal. The authority found after an investigation that Perring, Lau, and Bernard had contravened certain sections of the Act, imposed an administrative penalty of 50 million rand on them jointly and severally. And it outlines what they found to be misleading. Not only misleading, it says here, the following false, misleading, or deceptive statements, promises, or forecasts regarding material facts in respect of Capitec Bank holdings, which they ought reasonably to have known were false, misleading, or deceptive. In March of 2023, Medical Properties Trust filed a defamation lawsuit against Viceroy Research. And it is a rather interesting read. Nature of the action. This action arises from a campaign to defame, injure, and drive down the stock price of MPT, one of Alabama's largest public companies and its largest real estate investment trust. Defendant Viceroy Research and its members, defendants Fraser John Perring, Gabriel Bernard, and Adrian Lau, are in the business of mounting serial short and distort attacks against public companies. MPT is their latest victim. The playbook for these attacks is simple. Take a short position in a stock or partner with someone who has. Publish false research critical of the target company. Amplify the false claims on social media, then reap a profit, either directly from the stock price drop you bet on and then caused, or indirectly by collecting payments from other market players who profited on the drop. Perring, a self-proclaimed grand poobah of short sellers, entered the distortion game after British regulators revoked his social work license. That is his background, social work. Revoked his social work license upon finding that he lied and fabricated evidence. Perring founded Viceroy with Bernard and Lau in 2016, and the firm has become notorious for short and distort schemes. In 2021, for example, South African regulator fined Viceroy's members millions of dollars for spreading false and misleading claims about a South African bank on behalf of a hedge fund that was trying to drive down the bank's stock price. Defendants escaped justice, however, when a tribunal vacated the penalty for a jurisdictional defect. Let's read a little bit more about these people. Defendant Viceroy Research LLC is a self-described financial research firm that publishes negative content about public companies whose shares it has sold short. Viceroy is a limited liability company organized in Delaware. Its co-founders are defendants Fraser John Perring, Gabriel Bernard, and Adrian Lau, who are also, on information and belief, its members. On information and belief, Viceroy has no headquarters or employees, observes few, if any, corporate formalities, and exists solely to shield its owners from personal liability for their short and distort schemes. Because there is no genuine separation or distinction between Viceroy and its members, Viceroy's limited liability structure does not shield Perring, Bernard, and Lau from personal liability for Viceroy's tortious and unlawful actions. What this clause is trying to do, it's not making a statement of fact, it's making a claim. And it's claiming that there is no distinction between the corporate entity and the three individuals. It's trying to breach the corporate shield for limited liability. And if it can set that aside, then it can go after those three individuals directly. It's common for directors of a corporation to hold liability that you can, with a good lawyer, breach the corporate shield and go directly after the individuals in the corporation. That's what that clause is trying to get done. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Select last night, so I do know that much. Let's go down a little bit more. Before crowning himself a grand poobah of short selling, Perring was a social worker in Lincolnshire County, England. He resigned after the Health Professions Council, a public regulatory body for social workers in the United Kingdom, investigated his failure to notify a young child's aunt and uncle before recommending that the child be put up for adoption, a recommendation that, had it been accepted, would have had extreme consequences for the child. The council found that Perring subsequently created false records to cover up his significant failure. You know what they say, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up that'll get you in trouble. Created false records to cover up his significant failure and then threatened to refer his manager to the police when confronted. Ultimately, the council determined that Perring had engaged in deliberate, persistent, and dishonest conduct and created the significant potential for serious harm. Concluding that Perring's outright dishonesty would be regarded as such by right-thinking members of society, and in view of the seriousness of the case, the council found Perring unfit to practice and stripped him of his license. And you know what they say, if you can't make it in social work, go to Wall Street, right? No, they don't say that. If you can't make it in social work, turn to crime. Following the revocation of his social work license, Perring published market commentary on a Blogspot website and eventually began a research partnership with an investor named Matthew Earl. In an interview with the Foundation for Financial Journalism, an independent nonprofit, Earl accused Perring of plagiarizing research, impersonating professional contacts, and proposing an insider trading scheme. The FFJ's investigation also found that Perring pretended to live in an apartment he did not own and fabricated a friendship with an imaginary wealthy friend who Perring's acquaintances never got to see. The FFJ concluded that lying became central to how Perring operated professionally. Perring formed Viceroy in 2016 when, according to Viceroy's website, he was introduced to Bernard and Lau by a mutual contact who had recommended he collaborate with the Young Australians. We'll look at Viceroy's website in a bit, and we'll look at the About section. That's exactly what it says. Bernard and Lau, like Perring, have no institutional investment experience. Yet in 2018, a prominent short seller noted, next to a smiling Bernard, that Bernard is the brains behind Viceroy Research. And we just saw that picture, by the way. So let's just go back and have a look at that picture. Here it is right here. Look what's going on down there. You see that hand signal? If you know what it means, you know what it means. Let's see. Viceroy's business consists of taking short positions in public companies and then disseminating negative information about those companies through public reports and social media posts in order to drive down the price of the company's stock. Viceroy typically publishes numerous reports on the companies it attacks, at times multiple reports per week. So I think if they follow their modus operandi, we can probably expect more hits to ABR to keep coming. In January 18, Viceroy trained its sights on Capitec, a South African bank calling the institution a wolf in sheep's clothing and a loan shark masquerading as a community microfinance provider. Within a day, Capitec's stock price had declined by about 25%. Viceroy's report and its ensuing 6-month campaign against Capitec triggered an investigation by South Africa's financial regulators. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority fined Viceroy's members 50 million rand for having made a concerted effort to publish false, misleading, and deceptive statements regarding material facts and having demonstrated no interest in setting the record straight when presented with clear explanations for why their statements had been false. The authority also noticed that it had to enlist the assistance of a foreign regulator to compel a representative of Viceroy to be questioned under oath. All the while, Viceroy had been doing a hedge fund's bidding. South Africa's Financial Services Tribunal found that Viceroy had agreed to assist the hedge fund in shorting securities in any chosen company for a monthly retainer of $10,000 and a cut of the profits from the hedge fund's trades. Viceroy produced its false report under this agreement and earned an estimated $744,000 from the short and distort conspiracy. And if you search Google, if you just go on Google and you type in Viceroy lawsuits, Viceroy complaints, they go on and on. It is basically what it is. Okay, so there's Ninja Research. There's the last one, ninjaresearch.com. This is viceroyresearch.org. That should have been the first red flag, is why you at .org. And I think that is to instill some confidence in you that, oh, it's a .org, and you're familiar with a whole bunch of reputable .orgs, and you think, oh, it's that gives it some credibility. Click on it, and oh, look at this. You got this disclaimer of which you have to agree. Remember, Ninja Research had this thing when you first entered? Well, you got the same thing going on here. You agree. And you basically got the same kind of information along here. You go to About, and it doesn't really tell you very much. In 2016, Pairing was introduced to Bernard and Lau through a mutual contact who recommended he collaborate with the young Australians. Bernard took an interest in short selling while earning an accounting degree from the University of Melbourne and teamed up with Lau, a friend who was studying engineering at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. So in 2016, these two kids were just in university. So they had, and we read the claim from MPT. They have no institutional research background whatsoever. They have no background in finance, an accounting degree and an engineering degree. The two quit their day jobs last year to focus on Viceroy full time. We are a group of individuals that see the world differently. Remember, Ninja Research? We're doing this to make the world a better place. We're a group of individuals that see the world differently. They're so alike in their look and their feel and their interaction that my spidey senses start tingling when I see this, and I think, are these the same people, just with different research organizations? Organizations, I'm going to use that word lightly, but just with different websites, all with the same thing. No real bios, no real description of the people. The disclaimer when you first enter. No fund, and they're not paid. They're not selling their research, which means there's a business model in behind here. There's always a business model. And the claim from MPT made the business model clear. It's a short and distort scheme. And they, in one of their claims, they are being paid by hedge funds on a retainer basis to publish negative research to drive the price of a stock down. And the claim makes it clear that that Viceroy is not concerned with the truth, just with putting claims out there. No legitimate firm would have a website like this. No legitimate firm would do this. No legitimate firm would use a .org. And that they may potentially have a number of different companies or websites, all with the same look and feel, I think adds some power to a short attack when you can have 3 or 4 reports come out in a period of a 2 or 3 week period, all from different companies, or over a period of time, all from different companies. So it is, before you jump on a short, when you see a report and you see a stock down, have a look at the company itself and look for these red flags. Unless it's a name that you recognize and there's a bio and the website you go to actually has a fund, they're short sellers that run a fund. Unless it has something like that, some flavor where you can see what the business model is. They're running a fund. They're inviting you to invest in their fund. Here are the names of the people. Here are the bios of the people. There's the business model. But when you can't see the business model, you are the business model. You. as the holder of any stock that they decide to target is your emotion. Your fear is their business model, is that they want you to sell so that they can make money. It is, look, it's a dirtball way to make money, really, but in every strata of society, in every country, in every skin pigmentation, in every gender, and every sexual orientation, there's a left tail that will always be with us. Always be with us. It is, in the end, scumbaggery is in the end probably the most equal opportunity employer on the planet. And we will always, always have the left tail.